I wonder if your words may have had more impact if they were shared one-on-one with the president.
You know, I would welcome that opportunity. I have no idea how that would go, but the invitation would have to come from him.
This is not Fox, Congressman. You can't just spin a tail and pull the wool over people's eyes. Yeah. This is CNN.
You just can't stand the fact that he won.
In this video today, Trump demands an apology from the bishop of yesterday's sermon that went woke as she continues to politicize this entire situation by going on to The View. Also, the contents of the letter that Biden left Trump has been exposed, and CNN is continuing to melt down over January 6th pardons. We're going to show you all of these stories and more in this video today, but let's start with Trump's Truth Social post to the bishop. Now, here's what Trump had to say. This is after we published the video initially reacting to that terrible sermon, by the way. And I have some additional things I want to discuss as it pertains to that based on what you guys had to say about my video. But here's what he said last night. The so-called bishop who spoke at the National Prayer Service on Tuesday morning was a radical left hardline Trump hater. I showed you in the video. She's an activist. There's no question. She brought her church into the world of politics in a very ungracious way. She was nasty in tone and not compelling or smart. She failed to mention the large number of illegal migrants that came into our country and killed people. Many were deposited from jails and mental institutions. It is a giant crime wave that is taking place in the USA. Apart from her inappropriate statements, the service was a very boring and uninspiring one. She is not very good at her job. She and her church owe the public an apology. All right, so now let me address a few things, okay? So last night's video, I was absolutely wrong in suggesting that she was a Catholic bishop. Now, that just goes to show how much I clearly don't know anything about the Catholic faith. You have to understand that I grew up as a Baptist, okay? So there's that, and it's okay for me to say that I'm wrong, and I know the media would never do that. Secondly, she is an embarrassment to her own denomination. After I did further research, I don't understand why she would do something like this. Oh, I do actually. It's because she is an activist. And guess what? This morning, she went on to your favorite TV show, The View, and doubled down. Watch this.
Given your role, it doesn't seem surprising that you would speak out for the marginalized, as anyone who's read the Bible and knows the path of Jesus. But do you think your message is being misconstrued and politicized?
Well, sure. Yeah. But I think if you read what I said, and I mean, how could it not be politicized, right? We're in a hyper-political climate. One of the things I caution about is the culture of contempt in which we live that immediately rushes to the worst possible interpretations of what people are saying and to put them in categories such as the ones you've just described. That's part of the air we breathe now. And I was trying to speak a truth that I felt needed to be said, but to do it in as respectful and kind a way as I could. And also to bring other voices into the conversation, which voices that had not been heard in the public space for some time.
So she justifies all this by believing that our society loves to rush to judgment and paint people in the most negative way. And she's really talking about Trump as it pertains to illegal migrants. Here's the issue. Your party's been doing this for quite some time, ever since he came down that golden escalator. You painted him out to be very negative. You painted his supporters out to be negative. So when you're speaking that way, you're really describing yourself and you're just as guilty. So I find that attitude to be totally out of touch. That's number one. And two, Trump is focused on getting the criminals, the rapists, the murderers, the gang members who've been taking over apartment complexes and murdering American citizens out of here. So why don't you focus on that if you truly have compassion? Now, I know that's not who she really is, and this is really more of her ego speaking here, because I'm going to show you what happens when they ask her, why don't you just take this offline? Why don't you just speak to Trump one-on-one? You won't believe the answer that she gave. Watch this.
And Bishop, given that we live in such a divided time, as you've reflected on, and knowing how this message might be received by Trump supporters, I wonder if your words may have had more impact if they were shared one-on-one with the president. And was there an opportunity to have that conversation?
I've never been invited into a one-on-one conversation with President Trump. And I would welcome that opportunity. I have no idea how that would go. I can assure him and everyone listening that I would be as respectful as I would with any person, and certainly of his office, for which I have a great deal of respect. But the invitation would have to come from him.
Now, just look at her face when she was asked this question about meeting with Trump one-on-one. She's above that, right? Now, in layman's terms, my only reaction would be, who are you? Like, do you really think you're that important? You think you're better than the president of the United States? If you truly wanted to meet with him, I'm sure he would meet with you. We're talking about the most transparent president. He would meet with anybody, okay? So I find that to be a joke. Secondly, I told you guys, she is ego-driven, okay? If she was really walking the path that God wants her to walk and speaking in the way that she should, she would never even be on this show. That's first. And secondly, she wouldn't have gone on CNN, and she wouldn't have done it publicly when the cameras are rolling. So this whole thing from her, zero credibility, embarrassment to her denomination, and this is actually going to do more damage than being helpful to whatever cause that she truly believes in.
And then I also realized that that unity requires a certain degree of mercy and compassion and understanding. And so knowing that a lot of people, as I said, in our country right now are really scared, I wanted to take the opportunity in the context of that service for unity to say we need to treat everyone with dignity. And we need to be merciful.
All right, now I play that clip for you guys because I want us to ask the Democrats and everybody else who's up in arms about Trump pardoning January 6 hostages. Do they get any dignity? Do they get any compassion? Can we at least hear them out, give them a second chance, or should we just let them rot in prison for the rest of their lives? I want to know if this type of thinking is consistent across the political spectrum, especially when we're talking about people on the left. And how triggered they are about what Trump has always promised to do. And I, of course, already know what the answer is. This is a total different situation. This was an assault on democracy. Yeah, but what about the illegal criminals who murdered American citizens? Isn't that an assault on our country as well? Okay, I see how it just doesn't add up for them. Now, this takes us to the next story because Democrats continue to hold on to every single thing that comes out of Trump's mouth. And Stephen A. Smith, give him a little credit here, had an interesting take about that. Watch this.
So one thing I wanted to say, getting back to the Democrats, is disregard. You have to be careful to not fall for the okie doke, for every little thing that he throws out there. Because like Bill said, there's certain things that he's doing just for pomp and circumstance to make it look good. And he knows he's not going to necessarily get it done. But that doesn't stop them from overreacting to it. And if you overreact to it and use every little soundbite that he throws out there, or every little insignificant act that you know he's not going to be able to push through, and you react to that, you're reminding Americans of why they voted against you in the 2024 election. You cannot do that. If it's something substantive that's a real threat in your eyes that you feel he can push through, react to that. Make it real. But when it's something that you know is going to amount to nothing, why engage him in that? Because you're falling right into his trap when he does that, because he has proven in terms of headlines, in terms of sizzle, in terms of sparking a conversation and creating provocative dialogue, he has proven to be an absolute master at that, to his advantage more so than theirs. They have to make sure that doesn't happen to them.
Let's give Stephen A. Smith some credit, just a little bit, because we know he did vote for Kamala Harris. He's dead on. But listen, we want Democrats to continue to do that. Please overreact on everything, because it will continue to show American people how out of touch you are, and that you're not focused on them. You're still focused on Trump. And yes, we do have a great example of that that's playing out right now in the media. CNN and these legacy media organizations are focused on Trump pardoning January 6 hostages, and they're focusing on the individuals that violently either defended themselves or attacked police officers, and they're so up in arms about that, and they're using that to distract everybody from what Joe Biden has clearly done. Here's a confrontation live on air between Jim Acosta and Congressman Burchett over this particular issue. And again, just look at the overreaction from Jim Acosta. Watch this.
Do you agree with President Trump's decision to pardon these violent people and releasing them from jail?
If they were truly violent, no, but do I know that they were? I don't know that.
What do you mean you don't know that? We're showing the footage on the air right now. Congressman, you were there that day. There are offenders on January 6th who violently beat police officers. There are offenders who are convicted of seditious conspiracy. That is the truth.
This is a political world, Jim, and I don't remember you all on CNN condemning Joe Biden for commuting the sentences of murderers and child molesters, which he did. And you all
Congressman, I'm not
refused-
asking about that. Congressman,
Well,
we talked
you
about Joe
never do.
Biden's pardons.
You never do, Jim.
Congressman, we
You
did
never
talk
do.
about it. We talked about Joe Biden's
Oh,
pardons.
Jim, you did not. You all read your report from the Democrat National Committee, as you always do,
that
and
is
you attack
absolutely
Americans.
false. Congressman,
No.
are you going to respond and say whether or not it is right to let these people out of jail?
I don't know if it is or not. I'm not a lawyer, but I'll tell you what isn't right.
You're a congressman. You're a member of Congress. You're an elected official. Take a stand.
They were not given.
Okay, let's just get this straight really quick. Congressman Burchard did take a stand. It's just not one that Jim Acosta agrees with. First, it is true that the January 6th sham committee was definitely politicized and over-prosecuted a lot of individuals. Secondly, it's also true that Trump did not issue a blanket pardon for every single person that participated in January 6th. There's only a certain amount of people that their sentence was commuted, and then there's a certain amount of people where they got a full pardon. But there are still people in prison today, even people who did assault police officers and did additional damage or violence. They're still sitting in prison. But the media does not want to talk about that because they want to distract us from what Joe Biden just did, which was clearly disgraceful.
They were not given due process. I told you if they crossed the line, they were trespassers. Should they rot in jail for the rest of their lives in a federal penitentiary and never be charged?
Beating police officer, tasing police officers,
Jim, what you're
seditious
forgetting
conspiracy.
to know, what you're forgetting to say is the ones that he didn't release. Why did he not release those? There are several that he did. This blanket thing you're all talking about is not a blanket. It's not a blanket pardon. There were several that he didn't for those very same reasons. Why are you not focusing on them?
Congressman, we're talking about the leader of the Oath Keepers, the leader of the Proud Boys. They should be released from prison?
What about the leader of the FBI? What about the FBI agents that were on the grounds, that were in that mess,
Congressman,
that were helping
the leader of the
orchestrate
FBI
that?
was not rioting at the Capitol that day and beating up police officers.
Now, we have to understand the type of person Jim Acosta is, okay? This is a guy who disrespected Trump to his face, which is why at a certain period of time he was banned from the White House during the first Trump administration. This is also a guy who believes that everything that comes out of his mouth and from CNN is facts, even though CNN just lost a defamation trial. And this is also a guy who believes he's morally superior than all the other Republicans and anybody else who supports Trump. And that's why he is so smug and relentless in attacking Trump over this January 6th pardon and not speaking about what Joe Biden did on his way out the door. And this continues. So this goes on for about 9 minutes. Congressman Burchard had to drop the hammer on him in the end by saying this.
This is not Fox, Congressman. You can't just spin a tail and pull the wool over people's eyes.
Yeah.
This is CNN. This is the news. We are asking you to come on and tell the truth.
And that's why more people are watching the Cartoon Network SpongeBob reruns right now, Jim. Look, I left the White House during a riot. My life was threatened. My life has been threatened within the last few weeks, yet there's no coverage of that. And you all continue this narrative of attacking Trump. You just can't stand the fact that he won and that America spoke.
Congressman,
and that,
no,
and that your view is very diminished.
That's not the case at all.
And your view is very diminished.
I asked you to come on to ask you about these pardons because they are highly controversial and they could result in people getting hurt. And I think that's a sincere question to ask.
If they break the law, then they go to jail. If they break the law,
went to
then they
jail,
go to
and then the
jail.
president let them out of jail. And all I'm asking you is for you to say that if you feel it's wrong, say it's wrong.
That's the key. They did go to jail. And under these Soros-backed DAs all across the country, these people are walking for much more heinous crimes than this.
And that's why people hate the media. Because the people like Jim Acosta, who thinks he knows better, morally superior than you, that's his belief, and he doesn't care about how Congressman Burchard feels or what he has experienced himself. He doesn't care about that. What he cares about is the narrative. And it's good for Congressman Burchard to tell the truth. These people are salty, bitter, and confused that they lost the election in the way that they did. They all believed that it was a foregone conclusion that Kamala Harris would win. And of course, they were stunned. And so we are not surprised by the continuous meltdown from people like Jim Acosta. Now, this is a debate that we're never going to find any common ground, okay? Because people like Jim Acosta and Democrats, they are dug in on this, okay? They believe they should all rot in prison. There should be no leniency, no second chances, no pardons. And especially when you're talking about people who associate themselves with the Proud Boys and all these other groups, okay? Now, what's interesting is today, Speaker Mike Johnson announced that there would be a new select subcommittee to continue the investigation into the events preceding and following January 6th. So what does this mean? This means now the Republicans are doing exactly what the Democrats were doing, right? And they're going to investigate January 6th to tell the other side of the truth about what actually happened to the American people. I told you guys this would happen. And so I'm not shocked by this, of course. And it should be noted that they will have the authority to scrutinize, investigate, and call FBI officials that I guess participated during that day to testify. Okay, so that should be an interesting amount of hearings that are going to take place in regards to this announcement. Now, let's circle back on Democrats overreacting. Here is AOC once again doing what she always does best, which is delivering takes that nobody understands and projection about the Democrats' insecurities. She believes that people just shouldn't comply with Trump's executive orders. Watch.
And one of the most simple things that we can do is just not comply. Today, the Trump administration, and also last night, the Trump administration signed a bunch of illegal executive orders. For example, Donald Trump tried to sign an executive order to end birthright citizenship in this country, which is part of the Constitution. It is day one already trying to shred the foundational documents of American society and try to end birthright citizenship, which basically, as we know, if you are born in the United States, you are a United States citizen. That remains, that is the law, that is the Constitution. And he just tried to sign a piece of paper trying to say no. We don't have to listen to him. It's illegal. We don't have to treat this seriously. It's a joke. And that's not to say that what they're trying to do isn't serious. It is serious. But we should not consent in advance.
Now, the only thing that she did say that was clear about her rant was it is true that Trump did issue an executive order ending birthright citizenship. Now, we know this is in the Constitution. It'll probably go nowhere, but that doesn't matter. It goes back to what Stephen A. Smith said earlier. If Democrats are going to overact to every little thing that he does, they will continue to lose, and we want them to, okay? But secondly, we know that all the promises that Trump made, he seems to be delivering on all of them each day, on all of them, and that's a great thing. Even if I disagree with him and I was a Democrat, I would respect a man who keeps his word. If he says he's going to do it, he does it. Not someone like Joe Biden who says, oh, I'll never pardon my family. I would never pardon Hunter. And then he ends up doing it on his way out and didn't even do a press conference over it, by the way. Now, speaking of Joe Biden, what he was doing on his way out is he left a letter for Trump. It was brought to Trump's attention during the signing of the executive orders by Peter Doocy from Fox News. They now know what the letter exactly says, and so we want to react to it. And here's Peter reading the letter. Watch.
Peter, good afternoon. What was in the letter?
Good afternoon. Brett, this letter that we know President Trump did not open right away, I had a chance to hold it in my hand after he took it out of the envelope and review it. It's in President Biden's cursive handwriting. It's on his old letterhead that says Joseph R. Biden Jr., President of the United States, with the seal. And we can share with you now exclusively what else it says. He wrote, "Dear President Trump, as I take leave of this sacred office, I wish you and your family all the best in the next 4 years. The American people and people around the world look to this House for steadiness in the inevitable storms of history. And my prayer is that in the coming years will be a time of prosperity, peace, and grace for our nation. May God bless you and guide you as he has blessed and guided our beloved country since our founding. Joe Biden, 1/2025. It was written on one side of stationery. There was probably a little bit of room for him to add something else if he chose to, but that is all that he sent.
Yeah, so this is the advice, right, that Democrats need to accept. Stop going down this deep end of hyperbolic rhetoric about your political opponents because it comes back to bite you in the you-know-what. By Biden doing this, it clearly contradicts what they want American people to believe about Trump. If he is a threat to democracy, why write the letter in the way that you did? If you truly believe he's going to destroy the Constitution, why invite him to the White House? Why say welcome home? Why smile? Why joke? It's because, guys, these politicians, they don't actually believe in that stuff, okay? Now, I can guarantee you Nancy Pelosi definitely hates Trump. We know that. But the vast majority of them, including Democrats, celebrities, all these people, they don't really hate Trump. It's just part of the narrative that they have to stick to. Now, here's a question I'd love for you guys to answer in the comment section below. Given the outrage that is continuing to take place within the media and some Democrats and even Republicans in regards to Trump pardoning January 6 prisoners, how would you react to all of this? Do you agree with what Trump is doing in regards to that, or do you disagree? Please let us know what your answer is and why in the comment section below. Now, of course, we started this video off with what Trump wants from that woke bishop, which is an apology. And this is coming from the sermon that she hosted yesterday. And if you guys missed that video and want to check it out for yourself and see us react to it, all you have to do is click on it because it's coming up right now.